Remedy Entertainment, a game development studio known for their creative approach towards game development. Most of their many games over the years all received critical acclaim, and this year's Alan Wake 2 is no different. It's perhaps their most successful game yet, with it winning many awards this award season. And I couldn't be happier for Sam and the team. They deserve it. Because there is no other game out there like it. The way the game is designed, the way the story is told, the way it plays, Alan Wake 2 is filled with surprising moments and moments that I as a gamer never experienced before. And managing that in today's AAA climate is a big achievement. Yes, 2023 was filled with amazing games, especially single player games, but most of them were essentially sequels within already existing franchises, designed in a way that is very familiar and with a story that doesn't exactly tread new ground. Sure, not everything has to be unique. If something works, it works. I had a lot of fun playing these games this year. But if all AAA studios just stay in the comfort zone forever, the gaming space will become more and more stale very quickly. I think what proves this point the most is the amount of superhero games currently in development by big AAA studios. A few examples: the Iron Man game by EA Motive, Blades by Arcane, the Wonder Woman game by Monolith, and Wolverine by Insomniac. And these are only a few of the announced superhero games. And undoubtedly, there are also a lot of unannounced superhero games in development. Seems like we will be playing a lot of these games in the future. As much as I love Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man is Spider-Man. You know what to expect. There is not really anything left to be surprised by. A Remedy game, on the other hand, there is always gonna be surprises in terms of what you will actually be playing. Remedy doesn't use big IP, they shape their own stories, and that's the reason their games can be so creative. The use of big franchise IP causes natural limitations in creativity when it comes to presentation and storytelling. Sure, in the gameplay department, new and fun innovations can still be made. But when it comes to overall design and storytelling, you're clearly being put into a box as a creator with what you can do and cannot do. That Herald of Darkness musical part in Alan Wake 2 is my favorite gaming moment from this year. And no way Remedy would be able to get away with this if they were using it in someone else's IP. Hell, Sam Lake already had to fight for it to keep this part in the game despite Alan Wake being an original Remedy IP. And look how it turned out. We all collectively fell in love with it. We were all so happy to experience something so creative and unique, interesting and well made. They even got to perform it at the Game Awards. And look how happy Sam Lake looked. The way Remedy designs their games and tell a story is so vastly different from how other game studios do it. So much so that they develop their own unique identity as a studio. One that doesn't follow in the footsteps of the greats, but completely stands on its own as a creative force. And having a unique identity as a AAA studio is so important if you want to be successful and want to stand out. An example. There are so many game studios that make Soul-like games, because the people working there like playing them. Sure, you can make successful games in the genre, but as a studio, you'll never really develop an own unique identity that way. The Souls gameplay will always be linked to From Software, meaning your game studio will always live in its shadow. And the more stale the genre becomes, the more people will just stick to the very top, the FromSoft games themselves, and ignore all other Souls-likes underneath. Remedy, on the other hand, they brand themselves so well. They aren't living in anyone's shadow. They have such a unique identity as a studio, just the vibe the game gives off alone can make you tell. The abstractness of the story, the inclusion of that Scandinavian culture, and of course the hallmark live action cutscenes, an element of Remedy's games that will keep improving over time as the 3D models of the actors will start resembling the real life actors more and more accurately over time. Now, having a unique brand as a studio with a recognizable design approach can also turn into a bad thing, especially if you as a studio release many similar games every year. It can become very stale. with a prime example being Ubisoft. Everyone recognizes a Ubisoft game when they see one. But that has gone from a positive thing to a negative thing very quickly, as their game design approach has become very stale. But I believe Remedy will never suffer this fate, for a variety of reasons. First, they only seem to release a new game every few years. And second, while their games are clearly connected and similar in story presentation, and certain design choices are always the same, they're all very different in genre, and have unique gameplay that is very distinct from one another. Hell, Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 are entries in the same series, and yet they play very differently. This will keep the formula from becoming stale. And another thing to not forget is that the creative director is Sam Lake. I think he rather quits than let his games become stale. I think we will see the Remedy approach keep evolving over time. For the next part of the video, I want to talk a bit about the Finnish culture that is so present in Remedy's games, from folklore to straight up spoken language, and how the inclusion actively makes their games better. Despite being a Western developed game, it doesn't feel like your typical Western game. Most Western developed AAA games are all very Hollywood in its presentation. It doesn't matter if the game was made in France, in the Netherlands, Spain, England, or Germany. The story is almost always presented in English and uses the typical Hollywood-inspired concepts and ideas. They therefore all fall under the same umbrella, the Western game. Remedy is different in that sense. While the game is still obviously counts as a Western culture-inspired game, how most of their games do take place in America, it still has a unique, identifiable Finnish touch to it that makes the game stand out. Another reason why I love the inclusion of the studio's own culture is the fact that a horror game like Alan Wake 2 also benefits from this in another way, especially for a non-Finnish speaking audience, which makes up the majority. The strange language being spoken, the weird culture shifts during parts of the story, aids the strange surreal atmosphere of the game. It aids the oh so very important fear of the unknown aspect that a good horror product has. And this element is also oh so important to Alan Wake 2's story. Speaking about the story, I absolutely love the way it was told. How abstract, non-linear, and open for interpretation it all is. It's very Twin Peaks in that sense, but I love it. Definitely the best game narrative from this year. You see, one of the most annoying trends I've seen develop over the years, especially in Western AAA gaming, is that most told stories treat the audience as being stupid. Everything is explained in a very on-the-nose manner, with little room for interpretation and hidden symbolism. I think it's a damn shame. Some would call this Marvel-influenced writing, especially when the story starts implementing those typical cheesy quirks and jokes in lots of its otherwise serious scenes. I think the way Remedy tells their story shows a clear confidence in their own storytelling abilities. They are okay with not everything being understood the way they intended it to be. I'm sure there's also lots of stuff they themselves have no explanation for and is intentionally kept vague, because that's how a good horror story works. But it also shows a clear trust and respect for the audience. They give us the freedom to think for ourselves and come up with our own conclusions about the meaning behind events in the story. So to summarize this rant of a video, I'm glad Remedy is here. While I have played some of their games in the past and loved them, Alan Wake 2 is definitely the game that made me a lifelong fan. I can't wait to see all the creativity unleashed in Remedy's next game. And that's it for the video. What did you think of Alan Wake 2? Are you a fan of Remedy and their games? What do you love about them as a studio? Feel free to leave a comment down below. Always interested in reading you guys' opinion. If you enjoyed this video, also don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot as a creator. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. I appreciate you being here. I hope to see you in the next video as well. I'll be making one more video this year, and that's a video where I'll finish that video game tier list that I started earlier in the year. I'm gonna finish that one up with the remaining games that I played, so I really hope to see you there as well. Take care, happy holidays, and see you next time. Peace.
So like a land away. Come save your soul.